Hey, entrepreneurs, executives, and spammers. We started the Pilot House email and customer retention team to crush targets. And in our fourth year, we are the best customer retention team in the Roman character set. We use campaigns to fire up the addresses you spent so much money to acquire and build effective automations that keep your engagement window fat and drive value that you can amortize over years. The cheapest customer is the customer you already have, and the most effective ad funnels go to high-intent audience. Come to pilothouse.co, fill out the lead form, and ask to speak with me directly. I'll give you a free audit. Back to the show.
In the inbox late night, glowing screens see the light. Email, everything feels alright.
We're going to talk about how to do email like a billionaire brand on a 5-figure budget. Really big brands are into free traffic, which is organic, direct, and email. Recommendations by category. That's your email program. To incrementally grow that channel, you want to do recommendations by category. Billion-dollar companies automate as much as they can. As they scale their revenue, they scale their staff less, making them more profitable. That's why their earnings are so big. That's why their stock prices are so big. It's the world's best email retention podcast, and I'm your host, Jordan Gordon. We are a member of the DTC network of podcasts and the philosophical home of the Pilot House email and customer retention team. If you want to make the sweet nectar of low-cost revenue a large part of your digital ecosystem, then follow us on your favorite podcast app today. This time, we're going to talk about how to do email like a billionaire brand on a 5-figure budget, right? So I worked for a couple of large corporates. I built some very enterprise email systems and learned some tactics while doing that. And also just got to kind of, peek on the other side of the curtain and just see how people think. This does incorporate, it's a lot. This might be one of those marathon episodes. So if you follow me because you're into the really good content, this might be one of those ones that you listen to a couple times. And I will reference some previous episodes as I go through. Previous episodes from the World's Best Email Retention Podcast. If you just go to YouTube and search for the World's Best Email Retention Podcast, you're going to get the whole list. If you're on Spotify, you're kind of, the whole list's there. Same with Apple. So you can go back and find the specific number from the World's Best Email Retention Podcast episodes. And before any of that, I can recommend you go back and listen again to the 5 Fundamental Forces of Email, episode 14. It just talks about the stuff that's happening underneath, right? Really, really good to understand. Now, in today's episode, we do go through some very specific tactics that you can do today. And just, from some feedback that I'd received from some people who'd come through the sales process at Pilot House, they'd noticed that I'd gone from, a lot of like really actionable stuff to really high level, like, how kind of really big brands do it. And so this is how to do email like a billion-dollar brand on a 5-figure budget. But I do still have some highly actionable stuff in here, and we'll kind of mix it together. And that way, everybody on our list, entrepreneurs, executives, spammers, and webmasters, will all be able to get something from this exciting episode. First, this is really, really high level thinking about how big brands think, and therefore how they approach email as a subset of the channels that they use. Really big brands are into free traffic, and that's kind of gets close to the perpetual revenue ecosystem that we talked about in episode 40. First of all, they're into free traffic, which is organic, direct, and email broadly, right? Organic social, organic search, organic chat now for generative chat LLMs, and then email, this weird little one on the side, right? And what's different there? Well, all those organics are I would say inbound. Like you don't press a button and it happens. You got to kind of put the content out there and it has to get indexed or someone has to share it. It goes viral, whatever it is. You kind of put it out there and you just see what happens. Whereas with email, press the button, next day the money comes in, right? And then you're just dealing with, okay, optimizing it to change how much money comes in. But when you press the button, you know money's coming in. So we got this organic and then this email. And we'll go through some real numbers. I've got an interesting table to show you today. Then the big brands, they're trying to make money on free traffic and email, but then they got to refill. They got to refill things. I mean, what are they really trying to make money off of? Their customer base. We've discussed this before, right? Active customer base. Everyone who's purchased in the last 12 months. Some of them are first time, some of them are repeat. They're trying to make money off those customers. Well, you do need to add new customers in, right? So they use advertising to add new customers into that base, to refill their active base. But importantly, when you're really, really big, you're not looking at advertising necessarily about revenue. You're looking at it as adding another unit to express your LTV with, and your LTV is a multi-channel marketing effort, right? So very important, this distinction between revenue from advertising and, awareness, which converts into base. Now, if you're a scaling brand, flip that on its head. Scaling brands, they need revenue, they need customers, they need list, they need everything, right? So, one way, it's very textbook stuff from college, but one way to look at entrepreneur level, the seed level is all you want to do is units. You just want to drive units. Anything that drives a unit, you do it, right? So, in that case, advertising is actually really, you're thinking about revenue much more. And then, you're pumping that revenue, you're paying big money to pump that revenue while your organic and your email catch up, right? All your organic efforts, which you should be doing, you start getting indexed, people start following you, all those kinds of efforts start working. You start growing your list, your pop-ups working. You can market to your buyers through email. So all that stuff's playing catch up. And there should be this nice spot where you're spending less on advertising, right? Like you're kind of relative. So you're spending less on advertising relative to your domain, to your Shopify, whatever. And you're driving, kind of more revenue from these free channels. It's a nice little crossover point. You want to reach that point, of course. And so it's just all about kind of staying in business till you hit that point, till you can really leverage your free traffic. And importantly, that marketing if you're really scaling up and ramping, that marketing through advertising can be at a loss. Certainly at Pilot House, we work with a lot of smaller brands. And so for a lot of smaller brands, we're doing that profitably. We're scaling them profitably. But, there are situations where you're like, look, here's the thing with my VC and we have to be at this amount of time. We have 5 years. This is where we need to be. It's like, okay, well, you need to grow a lot of awareness. You're going to spend. Point is, profitability at that stage is not necessarily what you're going for, right? I mean, you could be going for, look, we're going to scale on Shopify until we can get onto Amazon, and then we're going to work on profitability on Amazon. Or we're going to scale it on Shopify, and use that to justify getting on Amazon, and use Amazon units to justify getting on the shelf in, Walgreens or whatever. And that's where we're going to be profitable. So all kinds of ways of looking at what you're doing with Shopify. You're either driving your business and profiting, or you're using Shopify to learn about your customers. Anyway, these are these two differences, how we think about advertising and email in our customer base. Okay, so let's do another little breakup, and we're just setting the stage here before we get into some kind of really exciting, actionable stuff. So what are just some different ways I think about different kinds of clients? And this is kind of really broad, wild ways of just thinking about different businesses and how we kind of, in our cases, sometimes kind of segment our service. First of all, there's just obviously there's just general. There's lots of stuff that just is you can apply a general email strategy and it's just going to work. Okay, so fashion, of course, if you've been following the World's Best Email Retention podcast and watching our episodes where we go through fashion emails, fashion templates, fashion strategy, yeah, there's a way to think about fashion. I'm not going to belabor it because just go back and listen to the World's Best Email Retention podcast. You're going to hear all about it. But let me just drive this one thing home. Recommendations by category. Look, that's your email program. You're going to do, of course, launches and sales through campaigns to enter new fabrics and close out fabrics when they're done, right? But when you think strategically, what are you trying to do? To incrementally grow that channel, you want to do recommendations by category. Now, we're talking about here how to do email like $1 billion brand on a 5-figure budget. So do we think these massive, massive brands in all cases are like having people put together the page and this is exactly what's going to be here. This is exactly what's going to be here. No. So much of it is going to be automated. And we're going to go through exactly what to do in a bit once we get through this list of just ways to think about different brands and where you fit. But I mean, everybody does campaigns, right? So there's no surprise there. Yeah, all these, you're doing campaigns. But then what's the secret sauce? Everything is focused on getting someone in front of a recommendation by category. Because what happens when you walk in to, the Levi's store? What are you interested in? Oh, you want a jacket or you want pants? Shirt? Oh, okay. You want a jacket? Well, here's some jackets that might go well for you based on your size, based on kind of your style that I'm picking up on you, based on the jackets that you were looking at when I walked up. That's what a person's doing in the store. So you want to get someone on that experience as quickly as possible. It's your whole program. Your whole program is to get someone in that experience. So look at the emails that you're building. If that's not what you're building, you're not doing it. And these big brands, of course, they're leveraging dynamic technology to do that. Okay. That's wow. I've discussed that with you, of course. And please certainly go back to the World's Best Email Retention podcast, episode 26, to really get into that, as well as any of the visual episodes where we go through fashion emails. Product subscribe. So you can go back to the World's Best Email Retention podcast, episode 36, to really look at the cohort analysis that explained why product subscribe is such a different business model. But this business model, your whole email program is get someone in front of a subscribe and save offer. And when we go back and we listen to the 5 fundamental forces of email, that first fundamental force was the compounding effect of email. You need people to see that offer a lot. Okay? A lot. And, go back and listen to previous episodes where we talk about how to approach cadence. There's a lot that we're going to discuss here. So, but right now we're just talking about where to think about yourself. But what's that going to be triggered off of? It's either just going to be a blanket subscribe and save if you've got one product, or it's going to be triggered off of product view. Now, put a pin in that. We're going to go and we're going to talk about the layer that we start sending these emails out on, whether it's subscribe, buy, visit, product view. Subscribe and save, either just blanket, we're going to just send a lot of offers out automated through a program, or we're going to do it segmented on product view, right? So when I say you have to send these messages out a lot, certainly you need to send a year worth of subscribe and save offers in an automated fashion. After a year, honestly, if you don't do it right, you can see it can affect your inboxing if you're not doing this right. So if you're just, if you want to just play safe at home, just automatically send subscribe and save offers for a year. Done. Right? Now, that sounds pretty easy, right? Yeah. Billion-dollar companies, they're not dumb, right? They want to find the most affordable way to do it. So what do? They will just automate that subscribe and save, right? subscribe and probably not so many $1 billion subscribe and save companies. I don't know. I mean, certainly $1 billion fashion companies, but point being big companies, they'll just automate that. Now, does that mean it's set and forget and they walk away? No. Then they start optimizing it. So when we think about product subscribe, when we think about a subscribe and save business, you want to get that architecture where you're getting someone in front of that subscribe and save offer consistently and persistently for a year after they show up, right? Then you optimize that. And if you've got 3 different categories and you're triggering it off of product view, a little bit more on that later, then you got to optimize 3. And think to yourself, again, we said how to act like a $1 billion brand on a 5-figure budget. Are you sure that you want to optimize 3 of those? Are you sure? Maybe you can just have a blanket subscribe and save and optimize 1, because you must put time into optimizing. You can't just launch the first thing and assume it's fine, right? That's not how $1 billion companies think, right? I'll just say a lot can be said for one clean funnel. Everyone goes through one clean funnel. You watch that funnel closely. You pay attention to it. You optimize it. How about single SKU? You only sell 1 SKU and it's not subscribe and save. This can be expensive products, trampolines, that kind of thing. Now, again, you know what? How many $1 billion single SKU companies are there? I don't know. Maybe not so many. But let's say just big companies that sell, a hero product. I mean, again, you know what? They get additional products when we think about like premium razor brands. There's lots of those around now. Well, they've actually got a hero. Maybe they're not single SKU. They got a hero product. They got other stuff too, but it's really about that hero product. So that's what I mean when I say single SKU. Your whole program's your abandon. That's your whole program. To be fair, those razor companies are probably subscribed and saved. They want you to get razors dropped off. But, whatever, like we were saying, child seat, right? Probably is single SKU. Not a lot of repeat, not a lot of subscribe and save. Definitely backyard trampoline. So the whole program is your cart abandon, right? Of course, you're going to do campaigns, right? Those campaigns, for that kind of business, they're actually just a manual cart abandon because it's just people showed up, they gave you their information, and you're going to just blanket their inbox. And so you're just going to supplement the automated emails with campaigns. You're not really building a long-term relationship if it's single SKU. You want them to buy. You just want them to buy, and maybe you're going to follow up with refer a friend or something like that. Yeah, your whole program is that abandon. So you're going to set that abandon up vigorously, and then you're going to optimize it. Cadence. What's the offer? Offer optics, right? Different ways of showing the same offer. Is it $1 off? Is it 1% off? When do I do that offer? Do I do that offer in the first week? Do I do the offer after a month? Right? So that's the whole program. That's the incremental value of that program. Right? Now, this other interesting thing that we got to think about, and I'm going to bring up an interesting little kind of chart here to really, really drive this home. I think about 2 different modes, right? One mode is, we're talking Shopify Klaviyo here. That's what we talk about most of the time, as well as now Rebuy, Shoplift for site optimization testing. So some people or some brands, they're selling a product that it's totally normal to buy online. So if someone's shopping, you're assuming they're shopping to buy. Thomas. I think some of you maybe have, I think I've had some Thomas the Train that I did on here and just looked at Thomas the Train emails and stuff because I got kids. If I was making a Thomas the Train email program, my assumption is I'm selling them Thomas the Train and I'm shipping it right to their door. What about soft drinks, right? It's not so normal for someone to buy soft drinks online. So what I'm doing is different. What I'm doing for that soft drink vendor is much more about brand. I'm sure there might be some situation where it's like, hey, it's a bar. They got to have a certain number of these beverages in because it's a kind of drink they make, or a gym, or I don't know, whatever, right? When I say soft drinks, I don't necessarily mean sugary drinks. It could be like yerba mate, right? My canned yerba mate. That's a buy in-store brand. Doesn't mean you don't need email. Email drives brand, right? Versus a buy online brand. Now we just talked about when we said general, fashion, subscribe and save, single SKU, all those. I was really talking about, buy online. So let me just summarize buy online and then do this interesting little talk about in store and how you might, on a really wide scale, think about that. So of course, buy online, ultimately you're driving traffic. It's about traffic. Look, welcome email 1 pegs off half of them. You're going to see half of it, boo, get picked up by welcome email 1. Great. Then of people that come through, the other half, you're carefully scripting that second half and optimizing it with automations. Why automations? Dude, big brands, they're not doing everything manually. They're doing automatically. And we're going to talk about that in a second. We're going to talk about, the way that you would just really, really, really automate it using Klaviyo, Rebuy, and Shopify. When you're thinking about driving traffic in your segmentation for campaigns, you're walking away from crap. To walk away from the crap. You just want stuff that's going to drive traffic because you want to sell stuff, right? And I've said this a million times, just walk away from the Apple Privacy Opens. If all they've done is done an Apple Privacy Open, if there's no other engagement, walk away from them. Keeps your inboxing up, right? Now, how about these buy in store guys? Let's look at this. I'm going to share something. 1 second. Look at this little awareness table. I've talked about this in a number of episodes, including episode 40. And I was just kind of going through a brand and I just thought, oh my God, this, I put this together, doing a report, just talking to them. And I thought, this is it exactly. This is it exactly to show kind of what I've discussed strategically on the pod. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at H1 2024, H1 2025. I like looking at halves. I know everyone likes quarters. And of course I look at quarters too. But the thing about halves is it's really hard to not include some really important factor. It's just, you've really got the whole thing, right? When you look at halves. Of course, you get more if you look at a full year, but if you want to be more expedient and a quarter is too short, you look at a half. I like it. Okay, we got, so half 1, 2024, half 1, 2025. We've got share. So the share of total, and then year over year share. So how the share of total changed year over year. And then also on the far right there, I've got year over year count. I'm not showing the actual counts. I'm just going to show, hey, this is how the actual count changed year over year. We've got, people might know what kind of clients we have and might kind of figure out, we're not going to do any actuals just so nobody can kind of guess the client or whatever. So let's actually just start on the shares, the H1 and the H1 2024, H1 2025. Now you notice there's 100%, 100%, 100% under total, right? Yeah. So I've got two things that are adding up to a total. Two things every time. Why? I'm trying to keep this simple, right? The first thing you want to do is just, when in doubt, zoom out. We're just looking at two things, an advertising thing and an email thing. Or let's say a paid media thing and an email thing. Both are advertising. Under audience, we're looking at reach and unique openers, right? So people who have opened, not unique opens, unique openers. You got to pull that from a multi-metric report in Klaviyo. And reach would be the number of individual people you reached through paid media. Then the next level down is awareness, okay? That's impressions, that's total impressions, and opens, total opens. And of course, you know what? Some opens are garbage. We know that. We just know that, just because it says open doesn't mean they actually opened it. They definitely might have seen it in their inbox. It's still, if it didn't get put in spam. So if you're not in spam, your brand still appears there as an impression in their inbox, right? Your logo appears, your subject line appears. So look, that counts. Why does that count? Because impressions, like if someone is doom scrolling and it just shoots past your thing and they see it for like a tenth of a second, that's going to count as an impression. Don't quote me on the 10th of a second. You got to talk to a media buyer who'd know that for sure. But point being, lots of impressions are garbage. Lots of opens are garbage. They're garbage. So we're going to put them together and we're just going to put them together one-to-one. Okay. So we got reach and unique openers, impressions, opens, and then we got organic sessions and unique clicks. Why organic sessions? The last section is free traffic. So we got the organic sessions, which are coming from advertising. You do all that advertising, people shift. We discussed this episode 40, and then they come in through organic because they've remembered who you are. And then you got unique clicks, and that's an expression of how much of that organic, because organic, should be a lot of your traffic. Unless you're very small, organic is a lot of your traffic. How much of that people who are just visiting your site are filling out the form and sticking with you, right? That's kind of unique clicks. And what portion of your traffic that you're driving is it inbound, like the organic that we discussed, the organic social, the organic search, the organic chat, and how much of it is persistent? Like you push a button and it comes in, and they're owned, they're on your list, right? Okay, so let's do H1 2025. This is the first half of the year for this client. And what do we see in here? Reach to unique openers. Unique openers was 8%. So almost everybody who was reached through advertising. Of course, this is what advertising's for. Advertising is for reaching new audiences, right? Finding new eyes. But look what happened when we went down to awareness. Total impressions, 65%. Total opens, 35%. Wow, right? Now we're up at a third of the awareness is reinforcing awareness. Rather than generating new awareness, we're reinforcing existing awareness. And I'll just say a third is pretty balanced. Like, just think about it. You spend all this money getting someone aware. Okay, are you actually getting in front of them again in a low-cost manner to remind them? If you're doing a third, that's pretty balanced, right? And then we get down to free traffic. And look at this. More than half. Organic sessions as measured in SEMrush, by the way. And then unique clicks, just right at Klaviyo, unique clicks. More than half of that free traffic is email. Look at it's like an inverse funnel, right? At the very top, yeah, you're like, there's very few people. What's that core? It's your core audience. Why is it only 8% up top? It's your core audience. But just look at how this expanded to half the free traffic is email, right? Just look at that progression. Okay, let's just talk about how things changed for a second, right? Look at the year-over-year change in share. Okay, big moves happened, right? We see unique openers. The share went from 4 to 8, up 117%. Awareness. The share went from 16 to 35, up 119%. So doubled in both cases. And then unique opens. It went from 33%, a third, to 58%. I mean, not 2/3, but pushing it, right? Up 74%. Okay, what was the driver of these moves? Those are big shifts. If we look on count year over year, yeah, reach down 56%. Okay, they started spending less on advertising, right? Why? It's an email client, so we're focusing on their email. But they're launching some new products. They're going to stop this. They're going to get this stuff manufactured and go large again afterwards. Happens all the time. Okay, we were talking persistent revenue ecosystem, right? Look at this. This change year over year resulted in half of their free traffic being driven by email. Can you imagine if they didn't have a strong persistent revenue ecosystem? Where would they be? If half their free traffic half of it was gone, right? Bad situation. You could be in a situation where, hey, we're spending less, but we've got strong persistent revenue ecosystem. We're actually more profitable right now. We're not growing. We know we got to do things, but it's like, hey, this is actually, and this goes back to our very first point, big brands. If you've got strong email, here we're seeing it right here where email is a larger share, which is not uncommon, right? If you've got a strong email program. Well, then, hey, this is doing great. We're making money off this. We're more profitable because we were spending to grow so much. We're spending at a loss because we had to get on Amazon and then get in the store. We had to get bought because we had a VC and we had covenants, whatever. And boom, we spend less. Hey, we're more profitable. At which point, that's the sweet spot. Because you're like, hey, let's spend some money on ads to add some more people in. And let's just look at our base. And just now we're looking at our customer base, how our customer base is doing, and making decisions based on how we want to refill that honeypot. So yeah, we see what happened. They started spending less on advertising. Also, I mean, when we look here at under awareness, opens increased 30%. So also our team was pumping their email, right? Because they made a strong decision to work with the Pilot House email retention team. And then, yeah, unique clicks got pumped too, right? I mean, we do generally focus on brands that are on addresses that are going to drive traffic. That's just the way that we work. Look how interesting is this, right? So what are we talking about here? We're finishing up just our second section. We still got to get to a third, and we got more sections. This is going to be a monster episode. We might have to split it into two. Oh my God. Next time. It'll be a cliffhanger, right? This is important for all kinds of brands, but really think about this for this buy in store. Because look at the effect that this had for brand reinforcement. Went from 16% to 35% in this situation. And look at how much for this sample brand, email is driving for just brand awareness. And when brand awareness goes up, branded search goes up, SEO goes up, right? You're going to just start getting discovered more. People are going to think about you. Organic goes up. When brand awareness goes up, organic goes up, and organic is more free traffic, right? And yeah, of course, how are we hitting this? We're being, targeted. The advertisers are being smart and targeting geographic plus psychographic or geographic plus professional pairs, creating a buzz inside of a specific audience, etc. Right? And that drives organic, So look at how much email is a part of that. If email dropped, suddenly organic would start dropping. It's an ecosystem. So that was, at first, a couple of big ways to think about it. Like if you're a big brand, if you're a scaling brand, how you're thinking about your kind of email retention separately. And then we talked about, a layer down, some different kind of categories and groups you're in, So a fundamental thing that we discussed there was that billion-dollar companies automate as much as they can. As they scale their revenue, they scale their staff less, making them more profitable. That's why their earnings are so big. That's why their stock prices are so big. So what's the simplest way for you to accomplish that technically? And you would plug this into the part 2 that we just discussed there. Hey, fashion, product subscribe, single SKU. Oh, I missed something on single SKU. I'll just say it now. We said that the whole program was abandoned on single SKU. What do you do with the rest? Okay, well, look, we just talked about it being branding. We just talked about for buy in store. So after someone makes that first purchase, they step into a buy in store kind of mode where, look, they're not really trying to push that second purchase because it's not likely to happen. You're trying to push brand. And you're going to do that because you haven't got a lot of newness. I mean, maybe you're going to put some stuff on sale to existing customers. Maybe they'll recommend a friend buy something or something like that. Refer a friend. But you're going to do newsletters, education on that kind of product, push your YouTube. If you've got lots of single SKU brands and they're like, well, we need something to say. So they get a good YouTube and it's kind of lifestyle or like tips, education, how to use it properly, that kind of thing. So you're going to start using your program, your campaign program, to push that in the ways that we just described, the strategically in the way we just described, right? So sorry I missed that. Okay, so we talked about for both fashion upsell and for product subscribe, we talked a bit about, the whole program was like. Get them in front of a recommendations by category. Get them in front of a subscribe and save. We talked a little bit about the layers. Let's just talk actually about 2 layers, or maybe 2.5. Okay. The top layer is they subscribe or they visit. So they subscribe or they come back and visit after subscribing, right? So what's going on here? There's no product or category level data, right? So subscribe, active on site. And so this is the one clean funnel. Now, where can we get product or category level data? From purchase, from viewed category, or viewed product. Purchase is a Shopify metric. Category view is a Klaviyo metric. Viewed product is a Klaviyo metric. Okay? Now, placed order is really powerful. So it's difficult for me to say, hey, we're going to just do it on two layers, one where there's no product or category information and one where there is product and category information, because there's actually two worlds here. One is they just purchased and they're a customer now. And the other is we don't know if we don't necessarily know if they're a customer. You can split things up and treat them differently. But the point is they just looked at something, right? So someone just bought. Wow, that's a different world than someone just looked at something, right? So 2.5 layers, right? And I'll just talk about the placed order and the product specific layer together, but let's just keep in mind, though you need to think about those two differently, right? You need to treat someone who just bought differently. But technically, we're gonna treat these the same here. So $1 billion brands, they're going to automate as much as possible. So let's figure out what they're into. Let's do our best to replicate what we see from Amazon. Lululemon does a bunch of this kind of stuff. Let's just replicate that. So they come in, subscribe, or active on site, and they're on a general path. They're just on a general path. And here's how the general path works. Show them recommendations. This is now Klaviyo specific, but this stuff works in any sender. You got to just tool around with it to get the right stuff. Any sender that has recommendations will do this. We've got recommendations, and Klaviyo recommendations get turned into best sellers, right? If someone doesn't have a recommendation from past, like they've never clicked on a product before ever. And the second is on-site rebuy, where we show recommendations linked to Klaviyo. That will turn into best sellers, right? Rebuy will allow you to put together bundles, organize what someone sees, the products that are promoted on someone's category page. And let's just talk about this for a second, okay? You just go to a site and you just go to a page that has products and they've got dozens of products. What's the chance that the kind of top row of products are the ones that are the best for you? Very low chance. They've got a lot of products, right? If you just are a random visitor, very low chance that what someone has manually merchandised there is correct. The top row is all that matters. So look, are these billion-dollar companies just someone's going in and picking the top row? Oh, I think this one will sell well. Oh, yeah. No, of course not. All that stuff is dynamic. Of course. It's dynamic, right? So we are going to dynamically show something in the email, get them onto the site. I mean, if they go to the product, great. But often they'll just click on a hero or something like that. A lot of traffic goes to a page other than the product. And we're going to dynamically show there too. So what did we just recreate? I walked into Levi's. I'm standing next to the jackets. Oh, sir, it looks like you're interested in jackets. Here's a new one we've got that's great. New to site, right? Oh, here's one that's really popular right now because, it's getting warmer. Trending, right? Oh, here's one that this works all the time. Everyone loves this. It's best sellers, right? Oh, I can tell just by the way that you've got a really interesting style. This one matches that style perfectly, right? Recommendations. We've got someone into that experience and it's locked. It's in the email, Klaviyo. It's on site, rebuy. Okay? We have just replicated the exact experience that kind of Amazon recommendations are pushing you through. And what do we know about Amazon recommendations? There's no big, massive hero shot. When you open a recommendations email from Amazon, the first thing you see is products. They've got a header and then they got products, and you're already in there looking at products, right? There's nobody at Amazon picking a hero shot. That's not how these brands work, right? Why do they show products right away? Because products are what people want to buy. I mean, a lot of time, unless you're like for campaigns, hero shot is good because it is as there's as little intent. I mean, the only way you could have less intent is if you removed everyone who has shown intent and could possibly get recommendations, and then your email's just going to die. So basically, there's no measurable intent on a campaign. Yeah, start with a hero shot, draw them into your world, and get them thinking, oh yeah, maybe it is time for what's in my head, another jacket. Oh, I'll scroll down and check out some more, right? So, and again, this is, we discussed this more on episode 26, which you can go into and check out again. But this is from the email. What do you got? What is marketing? It's audience message product. Okay. We've got here the message portion. Okay. We're going to show someone something they might want to buy, and product is kind of on the site, right? Audience message product. So we've locked in these two, the message and the product. Now, further to the left there, on audience is picking who's going to get this, right? Picking who we're going to put into this little funnel. It's a perfect funnel. It's like, oh, look, my email is dynamically generated. The page was dynamically generated. The whole thing is just for whoever shows up. This is how big, massive, this is how big tech does it. Of course, they use as few pages as possible, and they have those pages as dynamic as possible, because then you've got less technology to manage. Well, look, there are certainly ways to, replicate when to show someone a recommendation. You got to be a little artful in Klaviyo. I mean, one option is just put them on recommendations emails. They get into one of these paths, they subscribe or they're active on site, or they place an order, they view a product, or they view a category. They kind of enter one of these paths, and we'll talk a little bit more in a second about why there are two different paths. But they enter one of those paths, and you just drip them out some messages, recommendations, new to site, whatever, right? Drop them on pages that are going to build, Rebuy's going to build them bundles and recommend what's nice for them. And it's going to follow their path. So maybe you pulled them in on this, they hit the site, they start clicking on some other stuff. Rebuy's going to go, oh, that's what you're into now. And it's going to just keep on kind of that person, right? Oh, this really matches your style. Oh, but that's not, okay, that's not what you're really looking for because you're going to this kind of event. Oh, here we go, over here. We're just enabling that person is the machine learning. And so, again, I said fashion, but it's not only fashion. When I say like fashion is that's the mind the kind of thinking that I use. I was talking to a brand the other day. It's like they do sofas. It's like, yeah, we're going to use a fashion engine because it's not just sofas. They got, other stuff, ottomans, right? Furniture. Anytime you've got a cross-sellable system, a rich catalog, appropriate for cross-sells, and then this works. And then, cross-sells means building the relationship. We've talked about so much. I mean, go back, everybody out there, start from episode 1 of the World's Best Email Retention Podcast. We start from the beginning on how email and retention work from the very beginning, and just get back to here. So, yeah. So one way is just drop them in and just feed some stuff out. You can put them into a flow that pays attention to, how active they are. And if they're more active, you increase the speed at which they get messages. If they're less active, you decrease the speed at which they get messages. You don't need to worry so much about the content of the message because the content is dynamic. We're just showing them products they want. We're just trying to get them into a recommendation by category as soon as possible. That's what we're trying to do. That's the program. Get them into recommendation by category. That is when you start scaling your program because you are leveraging you're leveraging the machine learning, you're leveraging automation, right? Yeah. So we're thinking about, we know what's in the message. It's dynamic. It's going to be perfect for the user. So we're just thinking about, when we think about the audience portion, audience message product, we're thinking about frequency, right? Cadence. How much do we send? When do we send? So you might use some logic, right? The more active someone is, the more messages they will consume because they're actively shopping. They want to know. They're learning about your product. The less active they are, the less they want to consume. And then, of course, it's not just audience message product with email. It's ramp up your revenue, relationship audience message product. So, think about, don't just make a 4x4 or 2x2 grid and that's the whole thing. You got to put some stuff in there, some interesting content. I mean, talk about manufacturing, merchandising, talk about style, talk about how green your product is, whatever it is you're talking about. Build that relationship below the products. Lead with the products. Products get clicks, and then build the relationship below that, relationship audience message product. We just really talked about one clean funnel, which you would trigger off they subscribed or they active on site, they revisited. You would need 2 different flows, 2 different streams for that in Klaviyo. Okay, the multi-funnel, when we do have some kind of product information, when we can make strong recommendations, when we know what they're interested in, like we can start breaking it up. And so let's say you're a brand with, this is very common. Someone in the company is like, the way our manufacturing works, the way blah, 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 just the way it all works. If we sold them this product and then sold them this product, our year would be done. If we just sold a bunch of this product and a bunch of this product, everything would be perfect, right? Okay, so make a flow for the first product, make a flow for the second product, and then everything else, general. And we already just discussed general, right? And so in these 2, you just clone the general and you trigger it off of, you clone it where you move it in and you have a different path inside the logic, whatever. You guys will figure out the logic. You take the message and you're still using the exact same dynamic logic. It's still a recommendation, but you're now constricting that recommendation in the product feed to that category. And you're going into the relationship content and you're focusing it on that category, right? Now you're selling that category. So what did I say you wanted to do? For anything with a rich catalog, that is, where you want to build a relationship and have someone spend again, then you want to get them in front of a recommendation by category as soon as possible. That's where your scale is. Everything else, you're going to scale manual. Every other thing is we got to make another campaign, send another campaign, get more money, right? That's not, I guarantee you, there's nobody running $1 billion brand that's like, hey, let's do all the most manual stuff we possibly can. Let's just massively scale up our expenses without scaling up the revenue proportionally. None of them are thinking that. So you want to get in front of a recommendations by category experience as quick as possible. So that one is recommendations by category. We've constrained it by category. Only that category is going to get recommended because we know they looked at that category, right? Because we've got viewed category. Sometimes Klaviyo doesn't have viewed category and you got to back it up and say, what product did they view, and kind of have a list of products, main products that fit inside that category. You got to kind of go into shop. I mean, to do this right, you got to make sure you've gone into Shopify and some people I see, they've got like 80 categories or more. Every single time they do something, make a new category, they never clean it up. Yeah. Anyway, it's a recommendation by category experience. And then you can start scaling. Okay, we are 55 minutes in and I got like halfway through this. So I think I'm going to press on and we'll probably just turn it into a part 1 and a part 2. Okay? I hope you all have a great week and have fun spamming.
In the inbox late night, glowing screen, see the light. Email, everything feels alright.
Hey entrepreneurs and spammers, remember, You can't scale without email, and the cheapest customer to acquire is the customer you already have. So please subscribe to the world's best email and retention podcast and learn how to make low-cost revenue a big part of your digital ecosystem.